Hello everyone, I'm Wendell Jones and welcome to this edition of the program, The Platform. On this program, we examine national, sometimes international issues. And on our program today, we are going to be speaking about an issue that is of concern to many leaders in our society, whether they are in church and government, others in civil society, and especially people in the home. And we are talking about domestic violence in a way because our guest on the program today is a publisher and author. And she has written an interesting book entitled When the Devil is Beating His Wife. It's a Christian perspective on domestic violence and recovery. And the book is written to help victims and survivors of domestic abuse break free and create a new life in 90 days. Our guest on the program is Melanie Houston. As I said, she is a publisher and author and founder, as well as president of Alabaster Box Media Group, a division of Vision Resources. She has been in publishing for a little while, and so we're going to have some fun with her book, When the Devil is Beating His Wife. You can hold the book up so that our camera can take a good shot of it. An abused woman you have on the cover there. Eh? So, how did you get started in publishing?
It's a dream, first of all. I've always wanted to write and publish. When I was younger, I knew nothing about publishing. I just wanted to write and tell stories. But as I got older, I realized that I could have a voice and a stronger impact if I had a publishing house. And so I decided to start my own. After working for two publishers since 1994, I said, I can do this. And in 2013, in April, I did. I started the publishing house. And actually, I published my first book called Rivers of Grace, Poems of Redemption and Restoration. And this book was not planned. It was done probably on accident. I'm trying to help my co-author, Iris Cooper, finish her book on domestic violence. And it became a collaboration. And so this is how it came about, and with my name on this because the input that we both had on it.
So Iris Cooper is a writer as well? She is.
She is one of the founders of Glory Foods. It's a national marketing company in the United States. They package ethnic foods. And at the time, she was also a vice president in commercial banking and had her own story to tell and wanted to help empower women in a similar position. And so when she was trying to finish the book, she was having difficulty, and I offered to help. But I was only going to help her finish it. I was not going to help write it.
Yes.
And so it turned out that we wrote the book together, finished it together, and I published it.
How has it been received?
I think very well. I think that the timing is good, and it happens at a time when this subject is now in national and international headlines. Of course, we didn't anticipate that, but it's what we're hearing in the sports arena. It's coming out. Women and men are speaking out against it, and so we thought, gee, this could not have been a better timing for our book. Our message is to give women hope and to let them know that they don't have to stay in a domestic abuse relationship or marriage. And it's not necessarily physical abuse. It could be emotional, financial, sexual. There are different types of abuses, and we talk about that in the book. We take the lives of 3 different women and weave a story of how women can be in a domestic abuse situation. You don't necessarily start out that way, but it may turn out. And then how you safely exit. You hear a lot of people say, well, why don't you just leave? Why don't you just get out? And it's not that simple. And doing that could be more harmful than good. So we talk about exiting and recovering and getting your self-esteem back, your self-confidence back, and in about a 90-day period. And my co-author, Iris Cooper, had experience doing that in her own life in a number of different situations. She found that in 90 days, if she did certain things, she could get herself back on track, if you will. And so we use that as a plan, and we outline it in the book. We talk about leaving safely, how to use technology safely, how to use the resources that are available to you in your community, nationally but locally, and the help of friends and family.
Tell me why you chose this
title?
Title, When the Devil is Beating His Wife.
It's a saying, and I'm finding as I come down here in the Bahamas, African American people from the South, and now I'm finding people from the islands know what this means. When it's raining and the sun is shining at the same time, I grew up hearing that means the devil's beating his wife.
Oh, I see.
But when you're in an abusive relationship, there's one face that you have to the public and maybe to your family and friends. And there's another face that you wear, or another environment that you go to where you're home, where there's abuse. And so one side of your life, maybe the sun is shining, the other side is very dark and it's stormy. And that's why we have the book cover. It's called A Dichotomy of Truths. We commissioned this painting from Lisa Cliff. She's a local artist in Columbus, Ohio. And this woman, you see one side of her face, she's crying. And that's where it's stormy and dark. But here you see the sun is out. And so you see a different expression. And so oftentimes you don't know that a person may be in an abusive relationship because you don't see the stormy side of her life. Mm-hmm. You see the side that she's showing you because of the stigma and the shame.
You talk about how to free yourself and to create a new life in 90 days. There are women who have been in abusive relationships for many years.
Yes.
And they believe that they ought to be in relationships, and you talk about, this is from a Christian perspective you're writing this from.
That's correct.
And the Christian perspective for many people is until death do we part.
Yes.
So what do you say to that? You are suggesting that women should get out of relationships despite the vows?
There is nothing in the scripture that says that you should allow someone to beat you, to be violent towards you. And yes, you take vows, but God does not want his children, his daughters, to be in an abusive relationship where they're harmed and possibly murdered. Let's talk about that scripture, thou shalt not kill. And do to your neighbor as you would do unto yourselves. There are so many other scriptures that support God's plan for his daughters and his sons. He says that my plans for you are for good and not for evil, to give you a hope and a future, to give you an expected end. And many women are counseled, particularly in the church, that, well, you made a vow and you can't leave. But that is not accurate, it is not scriptural, and it's not safe.
So get me right at the top of this program that I am against all forms of violence and abuse. I am against it. I deplore it. But I am putting questions to you that I believe that our listeners and viewers would want answered.
Yes.
And so the question is, the vow is for richer, for poorer, in sickness and in health, forsaking all others, as long as we both shall live.
Okay, I can live outside of an abusive marriage. I don't have to stay in that because of that vow. And if you look at it, the vows to treat each other, what about that? Mm. So because you make a vow, or I make a vow, it does not mean that I should put my life on the line.
But if you make a vow between, in the front of a congregation, say, and in a sacred place in the church, your wedding is blessed by God, and you pattern your marriage after the first wedding in Canaan of Galilee, you say forget all of that if the man hits you.
I am saying...
Once he hits you, leave.
I'm not saying that. And
What are
that's
you
not
saying?
what we say in the book.
Okay.
What we talk about in this book is a pattern of abuse that someone is suffering under. They're suffering.
But shouldn't you say to your spouse, and perhaps I should let you continue, but and you can answer both.
Okay.
Shouldn't you say to your spouse, get some help?
Yes.
I will help you along.
Absolutely. And we talk about that. We want people in a relationship that are being abused to get counseling. That's the first thing you should do. And the abuser should seek that counseling as well and be supportive of that. But oftentimes that's not the case. And so we're very careful to say to women, you know, we're not your counselor, we're not psychologists. If you're in an abusive relationship, you should get help. But if that abuse does not stop and you're continuing to be a battered woman, you must take care of yourself. You must take care of your children. You must get to safety. You must be safe first. You can't be safe and dead. So we're saying that if your abuser continues to abuse you, please exit that relationship for your safety, for your children's safety. Oftentimes the abuse isn't just to the spouse or to the wife. The children are abused as well.
Many men would perhaps say, I'm sorry. And men have said, I'm sorry, in numerous relationships. And they also say, well, you know, it's the woman who brought this on. She caused it because of her attitude or because of how she has mistreated me. To what extent should the victim claim some responsibility for the mindset and the psyche of the abuser?
I cannot be responsible for what's in your mind, in your psyche. You are responsible, the abuser, for your own actions, for you to have a healthy attitude toward me as your spouse. If we're having marital difficulty, and I'm not a marriage counselor, and I'm not sitting here in that position, you should get help as to how you can resolve your problems together. But I am not responsible for when you raise your hand at me. As a human being, we all have boundaries, and we should have boundaries. And if I'm in a marriage with you, you're, as my husband, I want you to protect me, not harm me.
It is said, and I believe it is recorded somewhere in the scriptures, that offense will come, but woe be to the one that it comes from, that it springs from. That is in the scriptures. And the question is this: if a man is provoked by his wife, and sometimes it happens that the wife is abusive, and the wife is the person who perhaps is filled with the devil, the same devil who you said when the devil is beating his wife, this devil is found in the woman. Suppose the devil is found in the woman, and the woman is the person who brings on this spirit of violence.
We talk about that in the book, that there are relationships and marriages where the woman is the abuser. And it's difficult, even in our society, for men to get help because, again, on that side, the stigma of a man getting help because his wife is an abuser. And we say that we are speaking from the perspective of women, but we acknowledge that it does happen, that women are abusers. And I've heard many a story of men who were abused by their wives. And we say again, seek counseling, get help for your spouse, get help for yourself. Everyone needs to be safe and healthy. And that's the point of the book. The point of the book is not to defend behaviors. The point of the book is to help people be safe and to be healthy. Whether you stay and you resolve and work your issues out in your marriage, or you decide it's safer for me to leave. I was in a relationship, in a dating relationship, and I was not safe. And I feared for my life. And I made what I thought was the best choice at the time, was to leave and to get out. I also was in a home where my stepfather abused my mother. And she too was even counseled by her parish priest to leave that relationship because his abuse was getting more and more violent. And it was not safe for her, and it wasn't safe for us.
You're talking about physical abuse in that case?
Yes.
Yes.
And verbal.
Yes, and there's mental abuse as well.
Emotional.
Emotional abuse.
Yes.
And you hold the same view that if a wife is being abused emotionally, if there is mental abuse, because you can abuse people by the things that you say to them, are you suggesting that they should get out of the relationship as well?
We're suggesting that they be in a healthy place.
In a healthy
Whatever
place.
that is for them, that if they feel that they are emotionally, verbally, financially, physically abused, that they should seek counseling and they should seek help. That's what we're saying.
You know, you can abuse a person mentally and emotionally by 3 or 4 words. How long are you talking about? Are you talking about over an extended period of time? Or
I'm not suggesting a period of time at all, sir.
Okay.
What I'm saying is that in our book, the way we wrote this book,
Yes.
from the perspective of 2 women who experienced it and got out, we're saying that if this is you and you're ready to leave, if you're not ready to leave and you want to stay in that marriage and you want to try to make it work, or you're happy with that situation, that's your right.
Is there a chapter in this book about when women make bad choices? And bad choices meaning when you just choose
The wrong
one. Because there are a whole lot of young women who are watching you and listening to you today who are just choosing poorly.
They are.
They are marrying for the wrong reasons.
And we talk about that in the book, and we tell women that you need to take responsibility for your decisions. What got you there? Why did you make the wrong choice? What were your reasons for your choice? Was it because you wanted security? Was it you were taught, I have to be married, I want to be married, maybe the life that I think I'm going to have with this person is what I want? Life is about choices and decisions. We all know that. And we do make wrong choices. And so we do, and then when we do, we have to own it and take responsibility for it, and then say, what do I do to get myself in a place where I make a better choice? Because we all make bad choices.
You are suggesting by what you are saying and what you've written in this book that not every marriage is blessed in heaven. Not every marriage is ordained by God. That is what you are saying.
May not be. They may not be. You may make the wrong choice. You marry the wrong person. You may not be led to marry that right person. That may not be the choice for you. That happens.
So the devil
That's
himself,
real.
the devil himself can lead some people to marry poorly, incorrectly.
I'm not suggesting that the devil is doing anything other than.
Well, you said when the devil is beating his wife.
Well, what I'm saying.
But so by extrapolation, I'm seeking to get from you whether or not certain people marry because they are led by some forces other than the divine
That
to
could
get
be.
involved.
I'm sorry, I misunderstood your
Yes.
question. Yes, that could be.
That could be.
Could be.
Do you have advice? Well, this is aimed at women, this book is, eh?
Primarily because it's written from the perspective of 2 women, yes.
2 women. But you believe that men can also learn some things from this book, I'm sure.
Yes, absolutely. And one of the things that we also want to stress is forgiveness. And
I was going to get there.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Can I talk about
Yes,
it
go
for a
ahead.
minute? That when you are in a situation where you've hurt someone or they've hurt you, the first thing that you need to look at or we want is that you forgive, because we're all forgiven as Christians. That's one of the things that I learned to do, even with my stepfather, and what I witnessed. The things I witnessed as a child, I should never have witnessed. But he died last year. And before he died, I was able to tell him that I forgave him. And that he was, in my eyes, he was forgiven. And when he died, I helped prepare his funeral and did everything that a daughter would do for her father. And the scripture teaches me to do that. And so we discussed that as we journeyed through writing this. Like, we have to first do this. And when we go out, we like talking to young girls and young women about making good choices. But if you make a bad choice and you get in a bad situation, look at forgiveness. We call them circle of faith discussions. That is so very, very important in your journey to heal and to move forward, because we all do things that we regret. And if we can't forgive one another, where are we as a society? Where are we as a people or as a community?
You know, I went to a wedding and I heard a pastor saying to a bride and groom that, listen, you're going to have problems in this relationship. He said, teeth and tongue, they bite. Sometimes they do so in an accidental kind of way. And so you're going to have relationships that are fraught with problems.
Yes.
And but hang in there, he says.
Yes.
Was that good advice?
I think so. I think that in a marriage where someone isn't being harmed, beaten, burned, those kinds of things, being abused, in any interhuman interaction, we say or do things that maybe we regret or we wish we had said it another way or maybe not said it. And we should forgive. A friend of mine told me, and I know we just went through marathon weekend, she said, marriage is like a roller coaster. There are ups and downs, but a lot of people don't stay until they finish the ride.
Okay. It's
just an idea.
Let's take a break here on the program, and when we return, we're going to talk about communication. We take this break here on the program. We'll come right back.